right now. So it will only show the speaker and her presentation. So if you want your video on, you can leave it on. I do ask that you stay on mute until the end just to help eliminate some distraction. And there will be Q&A at the end. So if you have a question pop up for Erin, you can just throw it in the chat box and we'll get to it after. You can hang on to it and have a chance to speak at the end. This will be available tomorrow on our website. It is being recorded, like I said. A couple notes from the LSC before we get going. If you don't already, follow us on Facebook. That's the best way to stay up to date on all the things we are up to. And I popped that link in the chat box. It should take you straight there. Save the date for November 10th of this year. That will be our annual Sustainability Summit. It's going to be a really cool one. It's called Powering the Movement. Building community to fight climate change. We're going to touch on a lot of really cool themes. It should be an amazing emergent discussion. So we hope to see you there. More info on that in the coming weeks. But again, the best way to stay up to date on ticket sales and any keynote announcements will be Facebook. So go ahead and give us a follow. And without further ado, I would love to introduce to you Erin Clayton. She is heading up the Field Elementary Garden Project, which is one of the LSC's 2020 Microgrant winners. So we're really excited to have her here with us and hear about all the progress and good work that's being put in. So take it away, Erin.
Thank you, Julia. Yes, good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here. As Julia said, I'm here on behalf of Field Elementary and the Garden Project. Hopefully you can see my screen. I have some visuals to go through, so I'm hoping we're sharing this right. I want to start by thanking the Sustainability Council for inviting me to Green Drinks. And when I heard about this microgrant opportunity and read about Louisville Sustainability Council and your mission and focus, to connect communities and create pathways towards an equitable and sustainable future, it was love at first sight. The mission completely aligns with my ideals and goals for the future and with our vision and goals for this garden project. The concept of a sustainable lifestyle seems so simple, right? But we all know it's not that simple, and that's why we need leaders like you in the community to take steps towards the goals we have as a city and continue to work to educate our citizens. So we are honored and in awe of the other award recipients. We're excited to be part of this movement and play a part in this mission. So I am going, let's see, did that change? Who we are. Field Elementary is part of the Jefferson County Public School System. We serve children ages 5 through 11 from across the county, kindergarten through 5th grade. 43% of our student population do identify as minority, and over half our student body come from low-income households. So we are qualified as a community eligibility school. We also have many students that come from neighboring seminaries. We've got the Baptist Seminary down the street, and so they come from other countries. We have quite the melting pot of students at Field Elementary. We're located in Crescent Hill. And like I said, it's kindergarten through 5th grade at elementary school. We have on average 430 students and about 200 to 250 active PTA members this year. It's a little bit lower than normal years, but with the pandemic and virtual learning, all of our students were virtual for 90% of the last school year, but we do expect that number to increase back up into the 300s. We have a very good active PTA presence and a wonderful community. We're located behind the water company on Frankfort Avenue and Sacred Heart on Lexington Road. So if you don't know where we are, you might fly right past us. We have a really kind of private feel, but our school has beautiful green space and obviously this wonderful space that I'll show you shortly that opened up to a garden opportunity. We applied for this grant through our field PTA, which is why the 200 to 250 active PTA members was important. It allows us a little bit more flexibility in managing the award and continuing the garden project through different fundraising events and not having to go through the district and following their guidelines. So this is all parent supported, but it's really run by our 5th grade teacher as well. So here's a brief history of our garden. Back in pre-2018, and I'm not exactly sure when, there were some raised beds that were constructed and installed in the back of the school. And I'm sorry, and along the water company, and it was far away from the carpool line, from the buses. Things were planted, things were growing. We're not exactly sure who planted what and what was growing, but they were out of sight and kind of therefore out of mind. We didn't really have any active participation in this garden. We had these huge raised beds and they were just falling into disarray. In 2018, our school moved the parent pickup door to the back of the school. And so as parents would queue up to pick up their children in the afternoon who were walkers, we would see these gardens, these raised beds, and often have many conversations about needing to do something. What can we do? Great conversations, great parent involvement as far as the conversation part about what we should do with these beds, but we really didn't have any traction as far as moving forward to do anything. And so that was 2018, 2019. And then in the fall of 2019, the PTA, and I was on the board at this time, we were still working to form a garden committee and really just not getting a lot of interest. Some people were willing to do things here and there, but we didn't have great feedback and we really didn't have an idea for it. But at the same time, our fifth grade teacher, Kara Bug, who had only been at Field for 1 year, she approached the PTA with an opportunity to incorporate that into her fifth grade lesson. And there was a book that goes along with it. And she wanted to take over the garden as her responsibility, but obviously needed funding. Prior to her proposal, the Field PTA had budgeted $50 annually to beautification. JCPS has groundskeepers and grounds crew, and they really take care of the properties. So the PTA did not feel like they needed to spend their money on any sort of groundkeeping. We were focused our dollars on things for the children, events, technology, things inside. But Kara Bug's proposal was brought to the PTA board, and at that meeting, we voted and approved her budget from $50 annually to $600 because the project looked so great. We knew it was important for the children. We wanted them to understand, the concept of having a local garden and produce and tying it into this book that she has presented, Seed Folks, which is a wonderful book with a wonderful message. And so she was approved to start this garden project with her fifth grade class under the guidelines that she needed to make sure all of the grades, kindergarten through fifth grade, had opportunity to access the garden and to get involved in the garden. So she started working on a plan for the different grade levels to participate, having a rotating schedule and having everybody have access to these raised beds and figure out what to plant and what to do. Then the winter happened and, we're working for figuring out when these raised beds were going to be repaired and what we would plant in the early spring. And then in March of 2020, as we all know, COVID hit. So all of our students went home about a week early from before spring break and did not go back for the rest of 2020. We stayed virtual for the entirety of that school year, and then the start of the fall of 2020, the children remained virtual for school. So no one was really allowed on campus, and basically the garden and all of the excitement came to a screeching halt. The plans for the idea of the garden committee at that time, the goals were to purchase the Seed Folks book for the classrooms and to have all of the fifth grade have access to the book. It was incorporated into a lesson plan. Obviously some soil and some seeds to plant in the beds. The schedule rotation for all the grades to get into the dirt and tied it into lesson plans for kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. And then we had about 1 or 2 parents that we were looking to have help out on weekends when school wasn't in session or in the summer when school wasn't in session, thinking forward. But obviously the plan was to expose children to the garden, the benefits of the fruits and the vegetables and what's grown in the garden and the community that, building a garden can form. Then we learned about the Louisville Sustainability Council and the Do Something Green Community Microgrant. and we fell in love again. So after an entire year of not being able to do anything, we were so excited. I wrote to Miss Bug to make sure she was still interested, told her about the grant opportunity, made sure she still wanted to run the garden project and pick up where we left off. And obviously she had a resounding yes. And we started to dream big or bigger. We thought about the cost of things that sorry, my screen's giving me an alert. We started to think about the things that cost more than we originally budgeted for when we proposed to the PTA, and started to think bigger. What else would a garden need? We would need a compost bin. We would like rain collection containers, and repairing the wood, maybe replacing some of the wood. So thinking big, thinking what else could we plant? How else could we tie it in? Could we actually buy books for all of these children instead of just having them have a copy of a book that they return or keep at school? So we put together our proposal and our grant and submitted our garden project proposal to the council for consideration. In February, we learned that our garden project was an award recipient. And of course, we're so excited and can't share anything. I only told Kara Bug and told her we had earned an award and that we were moving forward. So we waited very patiently for the press release to go out just a short bit later in March. And immediately interest picked back up from our field parents and families. We announced our grant award on our parent page for Field Elementary. It's a PTA private page, and we've got about 500 members on it, and immediately started getting information requests. How can we help? What can we do? This is so wonderful. The day after the press release went out, our councilman, Bill Hollander, reached out to Field Elementary and asked, he had read about the release and the project and wanted to know a little bit more detail. And then he wrote about it in his newsletter for April 2021. And so people started showing interest, and I give credit to the Sustainability Council because we went from 2 people, Miss Bug and myself, really trying to garner the interest and coordinate this garden project. And with that short timeline of the award, the press release, and councilman's newsletter write-up, we immediately went to 19 committee members, all excited to literally get their hands in the dirt, and their families. It immediately became a community family event. So we went to the school for the first time in a year when the school started opening back up in March of 2021 and started planning everything. Then went back in April after all the excitement, and we had 19 volunteers, and the raised beds had been removed. I think they were deemed unsafe by the district, and they were removed. So we went back to the committee and talked to them about creating and constructing new beds instead of repairing beds. And we had a parent propose an idea of moving the location to what turns out to be a much better spot. So this picture is where we ended up moving the beds. The green grass from the fence line over to the left of the image, we killed about 3 to 4 feet of the grass to be able to put down the soil and the compost and mulch and make those our beds. And it spans, I want to say 30 feet down. It goes as far, I'm not even sure if it might have expanded a little bit more, but we lined the entire fence line. This part of Field Elementary is very accessible, but it's not traveled very much. So it's not a cut through. To the left and behind where the image cuts off is a big open field where children play soccer, kickball, there's a gaga pit, and then the parking lot where the buses are in the morning and the afternoon. But during the school day, it's a basketball court and foursquare and a fun area for the kids to play. But the doors to access that are on the back side of the school. And then this area really stays undisturbed. And behind it, if you were to think about pivoting this photo and turning to your right, is the playground. But there's another door outside of the school that children exit to go to the playground. So it was a very undisturbed, beautiful piece of green grass. Everything was growing well along this fence line, which made a pre-existing trellis. And we decided to move our beds there. Obviously, the biggest expense up front was going to be the copy of the Seed Folks books the wood for new raised beds, which we ended up still moving and creating elsewhere, and then rain barrels, which were all part of our proposal. And our community, again, showed up. Our Seed Folks books were donated. Megan Smith, who's with Homepage Realty, and Graham Smith, who's with Shaper Construction, they bought books for all of our 5th grade students through Carmichael's, another local vendor. They have a store on Frankfurt Avenue, as well as one in the Highlands. They gave us a discount. Megan and Graham bought the books, donated them basically, so every one of our 5th graders got their own book, their own copy to write in, to take home, to own. And that was part of their donation from the community to support the garden project. The wood for the raised beds, since we changed and moved the location, we decided to go on some smaller raised beds that would be for pollinators and for herbs and some of the delicate flowers off to the side, which I have an image to show in a later screen. But that cost came down a little bit, although the cost of wood went up a little bit. So it may balance out, but that was a little bit different. And then the rain barrels, a neighborhood, a Crescent Hill neighbor read about the garden project in the press release and has no affiliation that we know of to Field, is not a family, but read about the garden project and donated the rain barrels to our project. So we already felt the community growing outside of just our Field students. We're hybrid at this point. We have a few kids in 2 days a week, virtual from home. A lot of other kids are staying virtual and staying home. And we already have this huge community support just from a month of basically getting this all the way off the ground, going from idea to actuality. Then what happened? We got to work. So with the funding and knowing that there was support, we went and bought, you can see, paint, compost, soil, straw, twine, storage benches, tools, plant markers, herbs, flowers, all kinds of different seeds, some PVC piping once we knew we had these rain barrels so that we can capture some of the water. And we got to work. We had everybody out there digging when students were in session. Let me get to that next image. We had them digging. So here are some of the 5th graders. The boy in the red shirt, we got permission from his parents to show his face, but everybody else with their smiley faces. This is our 5th grade working in the garden. This is probably about 2 weeks into the garden being set up, and it goes along the fence line. We've got some of the students in the back painting the rain barrels. The 5th grade came up with a great idea for 5th grade to be able to put their handprints on the different barrels, if you can see that, so that they make it theirs and they make this garden project, special for 5th grade, but all of the students will rotate through and have responsibilities in the garden. So this was just the initial. We've got kiddos planting all kinds of things, and this is how it's going. So just in a few short months with planting, we have tomatoes, we have so many cucumbers, we've got strawberries growing, we have green bell peppers showing up, we've got kale and lettuce and different herbs coming through. This garden has grown, it has exploded, and everything that's harvested from the garden now we share on our social media page with different PTA families, and they can come pick up if you're near the school. You can come get a cucumber, get some herbs. So right now it's just open for the community and available for the community. And this image is a rendering of what we hope the fall will look like. So, you can see, obviously it's got some edits to it, but we're hoping that using the fence will be a pre-existing trellis, and some of the vinier plants and the tomato vines can grow up there, going all the way down to the end of the fence line. I don't know if you can see at the very end and where my marker is, but there, that's where the rain barrels are. And we've got a PVC piping system being set up to hopefully rest atop of the roof and capture any rainwater before it hits the roof, obviously, and then come down and fill those barrels. Off to the side on the top right are where the new raised beds will be located, and they'll be a little bit smaller than the existing raised beds. That way, not as many students will be able to access those, but the reason that we decided to go along the fence line is so many students can get up in front of these beds at the same time and work in different parts of the garden. So the smaller raised beds will have some of the herbs, the pollinators to keep the bees and the butterflies and everybody and the bugs and insects happy, and some delicate flowers. And then the 2 white squares at the middle right side over here, those are set up to be the compost bins. We may move them over a little bit. We're still working on getting compost bins, so we're not quite sure what size will come through. We won't be composting until the students return to school after August 11th, so we have a little bit of time for that. But this is the closest to where the cafeteria comes out with the trash bins and dumps into the dumpster. So this will be very easy for the bin that will be placed in the cafeteria that will be specifically for compost will be able to be moved over very easily. It won't add anything extra to anybody to be able to put the compost in. So obviously that's part of the lesson plan as well, not only teaching the kiddos to compost, but making sure we don't end up with forks in our compost and whatnot. So how does this translate to the classroom? Okay, sorry about that. So the garden is obviously exposing children to a garden, to fresh herbs, fruits, vegetables, and some of these children might not otherwise see the garden. And we know that. We have a fundraiser event in the fall that we incorporate a nutrition portion to. And I've done this for 4 years, and every year I have heard kids exclaim they've never tried a bell pepper before. Some kids have not even had melon, or there are so many new things that kids are trying. So we know the health and nutrition side of having a garden and what that can translate to the classroom. We've seen it. We also have obviously the math section and parts of, the younger children simply maybe counting the tomatoes that come off the plant, or counting how many plants are in a certain area, or just how many plants are in the garden in general. And then obviously up to calculating area and, different kinds of math there, the science of a seed and the life cycle of a seed and what it turns into in the flowering of a plant, be it a vegetable or a fruit or a plant, and pollination and all the science. I don't need to educate you all on any of this. The literacy component in the classroom is obviously reading the Seed Folks book, which is a beautiful book by Paul Fleischman, talking about a garden basically, and different people from different backgrounds coming in to help this garden grow, and really forming a community around a garden that was, started in this vacant city lot that had been completely abandoned. So the book is beautiful, and being able to translate that will be part of the literacy component of the classroom. The community building also being that the older kids will be helping the younger children through the garden and teaching them about that. So this classroom opportunity it's everywhere. I mean, we could do an entire semester on the garden. So this will be broken up, of course, over the year. But the biggest part would be the environmental impact and teaching our youth what is sustainability and why it is important. This is geared towards, this next slide is geared towards obviously what we're telling elementary aged kiddos. But these are some of the lessons that we want to make sure our children take home from this, stopping the use of pesticides, composting the waste, reducing it going to landfills, using hand tools and not needing power tools. The way that different kinds of plants absorb carbon dioxide, part of our entire sustainability thought process in the last year at Field, we also planted trees along the carpool line. We had an opportunity to get some great trees and to be able to plant them while nobody was on campus. And so this is all started our message and talking about, the importance of this and reducing carbon dioxide in the footprint. Obviously reducing the need to ship fruit and vegetables and things you can grow right here across the country, minimizing the carbon emissions that way. And then talking about, the rain barrels, collecting fresh water to use for the garden instead of, putting water out through your pipes. The benefits of a plant-based diet, not only for your own nutrition, but pollution and slowing down deforestation. All those messages are the things that we want to make sure the children understand. There's also a social studies component to talk about, the aspect of helping each other with the garden and coming together as a community. Obviously, when you tell an elementary aged child something and you show them something, then if you have any kids, once you tell them this, their parents and their families will hear about it and they will know about it and they'll want to be a part of it. So our goal is to teach children how to cultivate and create a garden, or just take this information about a sustainable lifestyle and create their own sustainable lifestyle. Small changes. And, the big picture goal of the garden project is if we can send 400 plus students out into the community with this mindset to protect our world, and try and heal our planet, even with just their small individual footprint and their small part, then we are contributing to better citizens and the growth of a sustainable future. We are educating the youth. So these are the things that we have this garden, this small garden in the back of Field Elementary in Crescent Hill, Louisville, Kentucky. And this is what we are hoping that the impact, and we think it really can happen for these children as they leave our school, as they pass through and spend all 6 years, because kindergarten through fifth. So they spend their years in our doors, working on this garden, contributing to the garden and learning about all the benefits, and then take it out into the world and positively impact, everything that they touch. That's kind of it. I feel like I may have gone through that a little bit fast, but without the Louisville Sustainability Council microgrant and the support of the community behind it, it would probably still just be Miss Bug and I working on this project. It really took off, and we haven't even gotten to school yet. School has not even started, and we have people in the garden. We have play dates around the garden. We have announcements each week, and they'll say, the garden needs some attention. Let's all have a play date at 6:00 on Tuesday night. And the kids come and they can play on the playgrounds, and the parents and the children are in the garden digging and harvesting and moving and doing whatever. We've, learning about the bugs that have crawled through all of the different plants that are out there. So it's really become this beautiful part of our community and a focal point for our school. And the kids have not even gotten all the way in. They got about a month and a half on a hybrid schedule, a couple days a week to be involved. So we are even more excited with this new school year and starting a fall harvest and what this can take and really see, no pun intended, but see this growing even more than either Ms. Bug or I had ever imagined. So having the support of the Sustainability Council behind us and the community has just exploded this project, and we couldn't be more proud and excited to keep it going. So with that, that's all I have. If you all have any questions, I'd love to answer them.
Well, Erin, I will just say this has me absolutely jazzed. Yes. Of course, I knew about this project as I work for the LSC, but hearing you talk about it and really go into depth with it, I'm so impressed. I'm so excited. I love that it's kind of taken on a life of its own outside of just the garden, with the community building and the rain barrels and the composting and the literature. I think this is just so awesome. So I'm really proud that you guys are a part of our community. So I'm stoked on it. And I have a question to kick off all of the questions.
Yes.
How can someone get involved if they are outside of Field Elementary? Is there a spot for community involvement in this?
That is a great question. At this point, we did not realize the amount of interest that we'd actually received. So we are still trying to figure that out. Being part of an elementary school and on JCPS property during the school year and during the school day, when anyone's on campus, they have to have a background check through JCPS to be able to come and volunteer. So at this point, we don't have anybody that we know of who will be participating in the garden who isn't a parent or a caregiver, a grandparent, or a family relative, someone of JCPS, because they need that background check. And usually you don't think of that if you're not involved in the school in a different way. That my first background check was starting to be volunteering at Field, so I wasn't sure either. It's something, as I was putting this project together, or not this project, but the presentation together, started to think about, and tomorrow when I talk to the board, try and figure out a way we can include the community, because there is community interest. Now, during the summer, with our garden committee, we will be able to have other people, kids aren't at the school, so we can have other people from the community come without that background check and without that need. But we are also always open to donations. We are a small elementary school. We do serve most of our or a majority of our population are low income households. So we're always looking for donations, whether it's monetary or if it's a compost bin, or if you know anybody who has great seeds, extra soil, things like that. So we will still develop opportunities, but at this point, once school starts, it'll be limited to Field Elementary parents and families.
And if someone does have any type of donation or resources, how can they go about getting in touch with you?
Well, that's wonderful. See if I know how to write into the chat. I can put my email address in there. We also have, so Miss Bug is the teacher who leads the garden project, but we also have another parent who has become the chair. And he was the one with the idea to go along the fence line. So he was the smartest in the room and he got to be the chair. I can share his information. And then Carrie Davis, who is our incoming PTA president, she is also serving as in a secretary role for the committee at the moment. So we have several emails that I can share with you all, or I can send to you, Julia, if anybody has questions, or whatever the best way is. We've got people who are willing to find a role for you at Field in our garden project.
I love that. Yes, I know you're in the middle of presenting.
Yeah.
I will pop my email in the chat box. I have direct communication with Erin. So if anybody's interested or knows of any resources or other organizations that might want to get involved, send me an email and I will directly connect you with Erin.
Yes, that's perfect.
Do we have any other questions? I can think of like 10, so I can keep going. But do we have any other questions from anybody that's been listening in?
I have more of a comment, and it's about the compost bins.
Yes.
There's a compost center at University of Louisville. When you get your compost bins going, you can go over there and you can get some worms that go in. And we had done that in our backyard compost, and it speeds it up by 50 to 100% of the time. And once you get them seeded, they just keep reproducing. So it's really a good thing to have in your compost.
That is wonderful.
Compost in there and seeded, and it'll keep it going.
Excellent.
A lot better than you would otherwise.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And it's free.
That's even better.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. We'll reach out to U of L. That is great. I didn't even think about the worms part. I just know that we'll have a lot of apple cores and banana peels that can go in there. Thank you.
Another question for you, and we had just started talking about it before we got started with everything, but if other schools are inspired by this and looking to start something similar, what advice would you give them? Where would they begin?
Reaching out to the community. When Miss Bug and I tried to create this between the two of us in conversation, it was just kind of a back and forth, and we had all these great ideas, but implementing them seemed very daunting. And we both had children. She was teaching and has her own children. I was still working full time in my child. So I would say reaching out to the community. The amount of knowledge that other people had, even if it was small, added together is really what made this garden explode. And to the point that I touched on is, once it was open up and there was an announcement with your press release, and then an announcement with Councilman Hollander's newsletter, and then a post on our Facebook page, we grew from 2 to 19 overnight. And so that's really what got this going. And then one person had a connection at St. Matthew's Feed and Seed. So all of a sudden we had seeds. We didn't even know we were going to plant kale, but now we have kale. And that was really it, just opening up and seeing who's ready to do this. Because I think the thought of a garden can be daunting, but when you get enough people together and you only have to do a little bit, it grows itself.
That's right. Connecting community, creating change.
Yes.
The Louisville community is abundant with talent and resources. It really is incredible.
It is. And we have found so much support. And, you know, children get excited about these sorts of things. We've noticed the children are so excited to get in the dirt and to dig things up, and, you know, what seems like a challenging task they take on. So that would be my other with the school. Bring your children.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
I have one more question. During off season, who's going to take care of the garden if the kids aren't in session?
Great question. That's the committee. So our committee is all parents, or, you know, right now it seems to all be parents, but caregivers, people involved at field, because that's how they learned about it. But they're the ones right now in the summer that are planning the play dates with their children. So you don't have to worry about childcare. You don't have to worry about juggling. Usually obviously all of our PTA members have a kid, and sometimes other siblings, younger ones. So everybody's welcome to come. The kids usually run around and play, and the parents have been the ones keeping it going this summer and actually doing all of the work. So that way, when the children come back in a couple weeks, they'll already have the groundwork done pretty much. The 5th grade had a little exposure right at the end of the school year, but this summer has been our parent garden committee.
Love it. Well, maybe next summer we can have an in-person green drinks there.
We should.
We can see the
I'm in.
and get our hands dirty. That sounds like fun.
I think that would be wonderful. What a wonderful way to celebrate and show off our garden.
That's for sure. It'll be exploding by then, I'm sure.
Yes. So we're very excited and we're so happy.
Do we have any other questions for Erin about this project? And if anybody does think of a question, again, I put my email in the chat box. You can send me an email. I'll connect you directly with Erin, and you guys can start the conversation from there.
Yes, happy to talk to anyone, and could talk about this garden project all the time. So thank you for having me tonight, and thank you everyone, and for supporting us. We're so excited. So.
I'm so excited too. I really appreciate you being here, and this is going to be posted on our website tomorrow. It'll go out in email as well, also on our Facebook. And I think people are going to be really, really excited once we get some more traction on this and some people get to see what this is all about. It really is so much bigger than I thought. I love that, and it has me so excited. In my head, I'm like, what other schools could take this on? So it's a very, very cool thing.
It is wonderful. We help other schools, and obviously happy to help too. So help the other schools and make this a big project.
Love it. Community-wide effort.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Erin, for being here again. Thank you for everyone else for joining. It is a beautiful night, low humidity, so the sun is still up, which is amazing. So if you can get outside and go for a stroll, you can definitely do that. But until next time, and again, mark your calendars. November 10th is our annual Sustainability Summit. Follow us on Facebook to stay up to date with any updates regarding that. Thanks again, Erin.
Thank you so much, Julia. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.